Welcome to another episode of Inspired People Impact Lives. Today's topic, be enthusiastic. Today we will be talking about the importance of being enthusiastic. I've been looking forward to this topic for some time because I think the importance of enthusiasm is generally overlooked and undervalued. In the realm of discussion around leadership, the importance of traits like confidence and decisiveness seem to take the limelight. While being a confident leader is important, a great leader exudes enthusiasm. To be a leader is to be about others. To be confident is to be about you. To be enthusiastic is to be about your subject. As long as you are focused on being confident, you are the focus of attention. Confidence is certain. Enthusiasm is creative. Confidence is serious. Enthusiasm is fun. Confidence is impressive. Enthusiasm is infectious. How many times have you watched a presenter or met someone and been impressed with their confident manner, but without really warming to them? Confidence can be impressive, but beware of the kind of impression you're leaving. Enthusiasm, on the other hand, is highly infectious. Leading with enthusiasm will allow you to serve, inspire, and impact others. Today I have a very special guest, someone who knows a great deal about leadership and serving others. She is the Vice President of Clinical Operations at UW, or University of Wisconsin, American Family Children's Hospital. She comes very highly recommended by our staff and colleagues. She is someone who radiates enthusiasm with all members of her organization at every level. Barb Byrne, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So really excited to talk to you about this, part of that enthusiasm. So when I think of enthusiasm, I see it as something that is very authentic, just really comes from your core, like who you are. So in order to interact with people with energy, care, and passion, I think you have to have a strong why. So as I ask you about that really powerful but really short word, why, what's yours?
So I feel as though I'm blessed in that I have always wanted, as long as I can remember, to be a pediatric nurse, to care for children. And I never deviated from that. And so in my core, in my heart, is a strong desire to take care of children, to help families deal with their child's situation, whatever it might be, and to offer that support and my training in order to help those families see positive outcomes.
That's awesome. So that's what you went to school for as well?
That's what I went to school for.
So we talked about kids before we got on air, but not about what schooling and all that, but that's awesome. And I gotta say, my first daughter was born 5 weeks early.
Oh, sure.
And so there was a fear, the nurses were prepping us, the doctors were prepping us, not knowing, what her size was gonna be, if there was gonna be any complications. we were at Meriter at the time, but they were telling us, if this goes wrong, we'll be at UW. If this is what happened, we'll be at UW. And fortunately for us, they're saying, fortunately it's female, because there's more development for early babies. So they're just giving us all this info, and the nurses were so great in helping us. So even more so, I think the doctors were more focused on the task at hand, getting the baby out safe, and the nurses prepping the nervous dad, which was me sitting there with my first child. So the pediatric nurses and all that, just it's phenomenal, the work that you guys do. So thank you. All right. So what is your definition of enthusiasm? Because I think everyone can be different. It could be someone that's in your face, just bombastic almost, if you will. But why do you believe it's so important as a leader? So I guess two-part question there. Sorry. What your definition, why do you think it's important to you as a leader?
So I think it's important to say what it isn't, because some people get a little confused between enthusiasm and just always being positive and go-getter. And I don't believe that. I think some folks confuse enthusiasm with being Pollyanna-ish, and that would not be true enthusiasm. I think enthusiasm is being able to read the situation that you're in, being positive, but not over the top positive, accepting the way things are, looking at where you're headed and helping your group move in that direction. And sometimes it can be humor, but sometimes humor is not appropriate. You're dealing with a really challenging situation, and in your heart, you're trying to help folks feel the importance of where we are right now and where we need to go, and help the team move forward in that direction, being real about the current situation and being authentic about it, and not, oh, it's going to be fine, but really helping folks feel where they need to go.
That's great. So really not being fake.
Right.
That authenticity is key.
Right.
Really, thinking about the situation. Also being cognizant of the situation. Where is humor needed?
Yep.
Is humor inappropriate?
Yep.
That's key.
Yep.
That's really key. So can you draw a time during your career in the hospital where your enthusiastic nature was vital, and maybe an even example where it probably was not the right place?
Yeah, I think recently healthcare is going through a lot of changes, and we are in a rapidly changing environment where there's financial burdens on organizations, the costs are rising, and it is causing us to have to do things differently and really look at things with a leaner eye, increasing our efficiency, in continuing to improve patient outcomes, but through a different lens than what we've had in the past. And that can be a struggle because it's change, and whether change is for the good or for the bad, it is change. And folks have generally, all of us have a hard time with change. And so for me now, it's really leaning into that change and feeling in my heart continuing to feel about what is our vision here, and how do we keep folks moving towards that vision through really hard times. And those are times that I don't come out saying, oh, this is great, we're going through another change, because that's not appropriate. It really is meeting the team where they are, helping them understand the why of what we're doing, and that we have a really important mission to fulfill, and that we're in this together and we have to accomplish this together. And saying I appreciate that, change can be really hard, but then we still have to do what we need to do, and help folks along. On the other hand, there are other times, even within this very challenging time, there's times when it's really appropriate to have a sense of humor. So for example, we went out to our different teams with what's called a safety cart, where we have this wheel that the staff are able to turn, and then we ask a question, and then they win a chocolate or something like that. And so I went out with my quality colleague, and we went to the different units, and it was fun and funny as the teams were working on trying to answer the questions. And some of the questions are truly about safety. Other things were about, for example, the Badgers. And so we were able to mix it up that way and get staff engaged and have fun with it. And we went to all different types of people, whether it was the valet, who parks the cars, or the person who's the greeter at the front desk, or security, or our staff, our nursing unit staff. So, and just had a really fun time. And that was at a time when, there's a lot of stress in the air, but we were still able to have a good time.
So that's funny you bring that up, because I heard about this wheel prior to the show, and because we have a wheel. So Chad was telling me about the wheel you have, and one of the questions that we have on there is maybe it's not even a question; it's a demand to tell us something unique about yourself.
Oh, that's a good one.
And so we add stuff like that on there, and it's usually to break up training. Get some excitement back in the room when we've been sitting behind closed doors for an hour or two or something.
Well, the other thing that one of our last questions that we just asked generically to whoever happens to be in the room is, how does your job, what do you do every day to help keep children safe? And that could be the guest depot person, right? And so, some folks have had to pause for a moment and really think about, what is it that I do? And it was really interesting to hear folks come up with, well, if I see that if somebody's at my desk and I see that they've brought other children with them, and the kids are running around, I remind them to not run because they could fall and get hurt. And it's like, it's helping people realize we all have a job here in helping to keep children and families safe in our environment. So that's how we end ours.
Oh, that's awesome. You know what's so cool about that is that it really gets from, vice president level down to someone that's valet at the hospital bought into the mission.
Right.
But
What
is your guys' mission?
So our goal is to be one of the highest quality, safest children's hospital in the nation, and to be a model of the delivery of patient and family-centered care. That is our vision.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. And so for me, no matter my feeling in my heart, when I run into different types of people, every person that I am looking at, I truly believe that you are an essential member of this team, whatever your job is, because we could not do our job without you. And I feel that in my heart. And, that's what makes the job fun, is like, how can you help other people feel the importance of their own jobs?
That's key, and that's why you come so highly recommended to us from your staff. So that's great. And one of the ways that I've experienced that personally from your hospital is the safety center.
Yeah.
Is my wife and I have gone there for every car seat. We've gone there for window treatment stuff. We've done. I remember, and I'm sure she could, if she was here with us, she could tell us what else we bought there. But the fact that you guys provide that as a resource. That the people there are knowledgeable. They'll even help me get, as a new father. I remember taking my newborn daughter out home, I asked the nurse, I was like, "Wait, are you coming with me to help me?"
Are you going to take care of my child at home?
That would be nice. But no, I was more concerned with, did I have the car seat in right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I was like, I had no idea. Those things are like, they're heavy duty.
Yep.
They're not easy. I end up sweating every time I take in or out a car seat out of the car. And now I have 4 kids, and it's a mess.
Yeah.
So, and they're all in car seats right now. But that safety center and selling everything, if I'm correct on this, it's at cost, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so you guys don't make a penny.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, it's a really good deal. The safety center is, but they have staff that are trained to do that work. And the day that we were taking the safety wheel around, actually, I had a meeting with the team that's involved with child advocacy, which includes the safety center and all of the team members that help to prevent injury to children. And I took the wheel into the meeting and I said, "Hey, we're going to do this wheel." And they played a little bit. And then I said, "So how do you each contribute to helping to keep children safe?" And they sort of all in unison started laughing at me like, "Oh, are you kidding me? This is our job." So that staff in particular, they actually are also out in the community helping with schools, a lot around safety in schools and prevention of childhood obesity. So we have teams that are out of the American Family Children's Hospital to support children's health. And so it's an excellent team of people.
Yeah, every time I've been in there, which is more times than I can count, and I'm sure my wife has been there more than I, they've been extremely helpful.
Thank you.
And I did go to see them after I got my first daughter home to make sure that it was in properly. And they gave me a couple tweaks, but overall I did an all right job.
Well, my son has a 1-year-old, and they're still wearing the apnea monitor. Because
really?
He's like, "We just can't get it off." I'm like, "Take it off. That's enough."
Yeah, by second
but
child.
But you're new father.
Yep, no, exactly. By second child, actually there's a commercial out there about that. It's like the mom that's all concerned about what they're taking
I
when they're
love
leaving the
that
house, and then by
commercial,
second child they grab a diaper off and a handful of Cheerios and leave the door.
Pick the nook off the floor, wipe it off. And,
That's a first-time parent, as your son's going through right now. More concerned than you're like, okay, I got this. And they're more durable than we thought.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, all right, so back on topic a little bit with we put in here about Dale Carnegie. He wrote this book called Think and Grow Rich. It's a famous book. It's been around since, I believe, the 1920s. It was one of the most, it's been documented as one of the most influential books. It was one of the first books I read on the topic of success. But he said in there, if you want to be enthusiastic, act enthusiastic. What do you say to that?
Well, that's interesting. Act, right? I don't act enthusiastic. I feel like that's got to be in your heart. Like you have to have a passion for what you're doing, and then it's not an act. It comes out in how you interact with folks and how the work that you're doing, how you do that work, how you go about that work. It comes out in conversations that you're having with team members or individuals, and so it doesn't feel like an act. It is genuine for who you are, and so I would have a little hard time with the word act.
Yeah, no, I could see how you could say that. But do you feel like it comes more naturally to some than it does to others? Like that, it kind of exuding enthusiasm?
I work with a lot of people around the care of children that have a passion for caring for children, and in some ways that might be unique to pediatric care, that there are more folks that are really that's their passion in life. And for those individuals that I work with, it feels to me like it is more of a natural inclination to exude enthusiasm around what they're doing, or they don't tend to stay in the field because you have to find joy in this work. It's hard work.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of our jobs,
yeah,
hard work. And you have to find joy in that.
And dealing in tough situations.
Yeah,
all the time.
and find the joy in that you're providing. In this case for us, you're providing support to families and children regardless of outcome for that family or child, and that you're giving something to them. For some situations where there's not going to be a cure, that the child is going to be able to have be able to survive this situation. It's being able to enter into that situation and really help the family through that, because you've got a particular skill that will help to support that family and that child so that every moment counts for that family. Yeah. And that's so you have to find your niche in that, and if you don't have the spark to carry you through those times, then you just simply don't last in that career.
Yeah, I can imagine. I don't know that I could make it in that career.
Yeah,
because I have a hard time when my kids are sick.
Yep.
Let alone like just with a cold, let alone anything else.
Yeah,
so,
it's not for everybody, that's for sure.
So thinking about that, because we didn't talk about your career path besides how long you've been with UW and whatnot, but was it a hard decision, and I'm doing some assuming here, so correct me if I'm wrong, was it a hard decision for you to leave the hands-on practice of being the pediatric nurse to going into leadership?
Oh, that's really an interesting question. I transitioned over time to different positions, always within pediatric nursing, and I took joy in every position I had. So I went from a bedside nurse to get my master's degree, and I became a nurse practitioner and a clinical nurse specialist, and I specialized in the care of children with cancer and blood disorders, and I loved it. And I learned so much about working within an interprofessional team and how you maximize the efforts of every team member to help a family through a very, very challenging time. And that was, I loved that position, and I had that for years. And then I needed to leave the organization for a few years. My family was, I had an adolescent son at the time that was very demanding of my time, or he was going to be very naughty without me being present around a little bit more. And I just needed to get a different perspective on life for a while. I could feel my soul was a little bit on the low side, and a lot of energy was going out, to keep family going in a good direction.
Balance, right?
A balance. I needed a better balance for a while. And the school district had a position open, and I went into the school district for 3 years, and I loved that. It was a very different perspective on how do you use a different team of people to surround a child in a different environment and help that child succeed in an academic world from a medical perspective. And then and helping the teachers and counselors and social workers. And I learned so much about our community setting. So then when I went back to the university hospital, it was definitely with a different perspective for families and learning about what it is that those families go through in the community setting, which was an eye-opener to me. Because, you know, if you only work in the hospital, you do not completely understand the challenges that families have in the community setting. So that changed how I thought about nursing and what we provide to families in the hospital. And then, so I came back and I focused more as a nurse practitioner and a clinical nurse specialist again. And then I moved into management in 2007 because I thought I really want to make a difference for the nursing staff and team members that support children in a different way. And so I went into management in 2007 and then progressed. I went back to get my doctorate degree in healthcare systems and administration, and you know, just sort of progressed over the years and followed my heart for what made most sense for me and where I was at with professionally and what my goals were. They just sort of evolved over time, and each job I've had, always within pediatrics, I've completely enjoyed.
That's great.
Now, not all the time. I don't enjoy it all the time, but you know, the different things I've learned.
The overall big picture.
Yeah.
Enjoyed, yeah.
I've been really fortunate to have a career that allows me to do that.
Does your enthusiasm stay the same at home as it does at work?
Well, you should ask
does
my
it
husband.
Right.
He would say not always. I am trying really hard, and I've become more mindful about this and realizing as I've matured in my career that I used to take my work home a lot and not be able to kind of cut it off. I would just carry it with me. And I've come to learn over the years the importance of compartmentalizing that. And so when I'm at work, I'm present at work. I don't try to carry burdens from, you know, other things going on, because we all have burdens, right? I don't carry them into the workplace. I try to keep those. When I get in my car and I'm going to work, I start focusing on, you know, some mindful moments on the way into work so that I recenter myself that now I'm going into the workplace. And I start thinking about work, and I go into work, I keep it there. And then when I go home at the end of my work day, when I get into the car, I take another breath and just sort of let that go and go home and have a lovely home experience. And if I get called because something is needed, I'm able to kind of pop out of that life for a moment, answer the call, and then I go back into my personal life. And I don't mind being called. That's part of my job. But I really do try to compartmentalize so that I don't just keep both worlds colliding with each other.
Yeah. So I think what you just went through there is a developed skill, though.
Yep. Definitely.
Could you describe for the listeners that may not be so good at this yet, what you mean by mindful moments?
Oh, sure. So I took a course in stress reduction through mindfulness a couple years ago through the UW. And that's where I came to more appreciate the need to take a breath and stay in the moment, not carry a lot of baggage with you. So don't carry all of this story with you. Don't be thinking too far ahead, but just stay in the moment. And the only thing that's real in the moment is your breath. So really grounding yourself again by just taking a breath. And our minds always wander. That's normal for a mind to wander. But when you realize your mind is wandering, to come back to the breath and just pay really close attention to the breath, to your body. Are you tense? Is your face tense? Are your arms tense? And just reminding yourself to relax, and you have to work at that to kind of retrain your brain to have that more mindful approach to life. And I am not, for sure not perfect at it, but I more quickly realize when I'm escalating my thought or thinking too far ahead or behind. I catch it earlier so that I take a breath and come back to the moment.
Yeah.
And that was an eye-opener for me to learn how much my mind goes ahead, and to be able to kind of settle it back down again. It was really an interesting course to learn that.
Is that open to the public?
Yep. Yeah.
So that's
UW Health, you can look at integrative medicine and the wellness program, and they have that coursework out there.
Well, I think that's really good, because a lot of people struggle with mental health, and they struggle with kind of shame and guilt, right?
Yeah.
So, they're, and I know, and I've heard from so many moms, and I told you a little story about my wife and her, shame or guilt about should we get a sitter nanny or whatever, she feel like failing at her job, but she's not. So the biggest thing I say with that is, like, take those courses, take the time to read the books, watch the Brene Brown videos, just do this stuff to take the time and learn that skill. Because it's so helpful. Yeah. And I think that's where you get back to, or where we were talking about Dale Carnegie and act enthusiastic. As you were saying this, I was like, I think that's where he was going. Is like, there's how we are, as a leader. Yep. The people that are following us are going to mirror our energy. Yep. So if you're not mindful and you come in stressed because you got into a dumb argument at home that you realize now in the moment that it was dumb, and now you're carrying this weight into the workplace, and people can feel that. And you're trying to be this one way and lead and say this, and they're like, something's off.
Yeah, and I think that concept of having compassion for yourself is really important, and recognition when you are a little bit off balance, and then take the time back for yourself. And I don't mean taking off of work necessarily, but vacations are important. But just, whether it be exercising or eating right or sleeping, those are things that are important to help keep your energy up. And also for me, it also is important for me. It's my spiritual connectedness also. If I feel like I've kind of straying from that, that it's just, I have to keep things in balance, but I'm also not too hard on myself if I can't get to the gym, or I've blown it for a week and eaten food that is not particularly healthy for me. I don't beat myself up. I just accept, okay, this was a difficult time, and I correct. I go back into my balancing mode. So I think that's really important.
And the other thing that I think that's really important about mindfulness, and as you were saying that, I was thinking about a phrase I was taught by one of my mentors: be where your feet are. And that's really hard in today's world, where we got information flying at us, our phones, computers, calls, at any different moment, to be present. So I try to remember that. And by the way, I am not perfect at this either, to go home and make sure I have the same energy at home that I just spent 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours sometimes here at the office, because my kids need me like that. And I'm not perfect at that, and I try to be mindful for all that time, but that's the thought, that little phrase goes through my head when I get a text or an email from work that needs me. I gotta be where my feet are. My kids need me right now. Or my wife needs me. And then at the office, same thing, is setting some boundaries there as well. So that was harder when we were going through pregnancies. I needed to have my phone to say if I needed to leave right away. Right. But now that we're out of that, it's like, if she's just texting or calling to say hi or whatever, that's harder for me. So we have to set some boundaries there too.
Absolutely.
So that's good. So aside from the effects being enthusiastic has on others, what effects can being enthusiastic have for you personally?
Well, I feel as though, just in general, I feed off of creative energy. So I find joy when I am able to facilitate groups and moving forward on something. And maybe they were groups that originally started off maybe not on the same page at all. And maybe there was some conflict going on between the groups, and bringing the team together and helping the team focus on what our overall goal is, regardless of the differences that there might be, and then helping to get the group moving forward and doing brainstorming together, and getting the group head in the same direction and energized around our goals. That helps me also, just feeds me.
It's like a loop.
Yeah, totally.
It's an energy loop for you.
Yep, absolutely.
That's cool. All right, so you're just bringing in the team again. I had another thought that came to mind. So let's say there's someone on the team that's an energy vampire. And maybe you've not heard that phrase before.
I haven't, but that's a good one.
So John Gordon wrote The Energy Bus, which is a great book. He has a bunch of team building books that we've adapted and read, but energy vampire was his phrase that he used in there. And so let's say you have someone in there that doesn't agree with the direction and enthusiasm that you have. How do you go about getting them out? If they're a crucial member of the team, you need them to buy into what the direction you're trying to move them. How do you go about that?
In a situation like that, if we're doing teamwork, in the moment, I try as tactfully as possible to, without calling the individual out, but to just remind folks on what the goal is of this particular meeting or project, what our goal is. And if it continues where there's negativity and we're not moving, it's a barrier or a challenge, I will say, let's talk about that after. And so I'll just kind of put in the parking lot in order to keep the whole group moving forward.
And then have a private conversation.
Yeah. Then I would talk with the individual about where we're trying to get to, and what they're feeling are their barriers and challenges with this, and help them really see we have to move in this direction, and how if it comes to this part of the discussion, it's how those behaviors are bringing the whole team down. And so as thoughtfully as possible, pointing out the behaviors that are really obstructing the whole team moving forward, and how one person's attitudes and behaviors can really have a negative effect on an entire team and process. And are you able to rise above this moment and help us achieve the goals or not?
That's really good. Are there any questions our audience can start asking themselves on their path to becoming more enthusiastic?
I think something that is important to reflect on in your workplace is being able to link your work with your, what are you trying to achieve in that job? What is the purpose of your job? And trying to link it to the customer, or trying to link it to, something that resonates with you, so that when you go into work every day, you really feel a purpose for your job. And then also, this was an exercise we did when I was getting my doctorate degree. One of the last exercises, which was hard to do because it was the absolute last paper that we had to write, and it was like, oh my gosh, I just want to be done. But it was really an interesting question. We were asked to reflect on why we are where we are right now. So what brought you to this career, and why are you now in this leadership position? Because most of the team members are, most of the folks going through a doctorate program are leaders in they're either clinical leaders, or they're administrative leaders, or business leaders. And so why are you a leader? And that was an interesting exercise, because I was able to think about over time, from my childhood on, over time, what led me to where I am now. And the final comment on the paper that the instructor had given us was, it is important for you as you travel through your life, because there are going to be ups and downs in your professional career, that you take this paper out and reflect on it. And I was, it was a really good exercise to help ground you and help remind you, because we don't do enough self-reflection,
totally
like why
agree.
we are where we are today. We don't take the time to do that. But that was, that was about 10 hours worth of work of really, for the writing part of reflecting on the journey that I was on. And I gave this exercise to some of our team members, that because I thought it was so good, and they too were like, oh my gosh, this is really a good set of questions to ask.
No, that's really good. And as you say, that self-reflecting piece as to like why we are, or why we are where we are, or what position we're in, or whatever.
Right.
I think that people just don't self-reflect in general about, like, even an emotion.
Yep.
Like, why am I feeling the way I'm feeling right now, and does that have any merit?
Yep.
Right? Or what, doing some just deep thought into it versus just going through the motions, or attaching your emotions to a passing thought that you had, like we were talking about, that mindfulness. Does that thought even hold any relevance over my life?
It's just a story, right? It's a story you're telling yourself, and it's not a true story. You're putting a lot of pieces together for something that you're spending a lot of wasted energy, I would say, in defending or thinking about or passing judgment or whatever it is we do. That's wasted energy, because it's not the truth. The truth is in the moment. And it's your perception coming into that moment, and your perception ahead of that moment, but your perception could be totally wrong. So it really is more important to think about the moment and not allow yourself to, deviate off and come into things with all of this judgment and, oh my gosh, I'm so worried because I know this person's going to think this way and that way. Just stop, take a breath, and
it's all the what ifs, right?
Yeah.
Or, what ifs in retrospect,
right.
But also then I know even sometimes I'll catch myself, like, we're in the cell phone age. So, my parents back in the day couldn't necessarily call each other, right? Well, Jenna can call me now or text me now and say, hey, I'm on my way home. So, like, if I don't get an immediate response, I'm like, oh my gosh, is she in an accident?
Of course.
Are the kids okay? Is she okay? I'm going to get a call that's going to totally flip my life upside down. And I got to go, wait a second, that's not even, come on.
Right.
Like, could that be true? Possibly. But if I spend my energy on that right now, like, what does that guy do to me? I'm going to drive myself batty. Right. So you're absolutely right on that. So it's very good. Another couple questions I had here that were just to help the audience on when I asked you about, for people to start thinking about themselves on a path to enthusiasm, a couple things that we put down as just thought work. What do you care deeply about? When have you come alive and had this, like, excited feeling? And what do you want to see change? Or how do you continue to be enthusiastic when you're having an off day or feeling low energy? Those are things that people can go and think about. And I love the question that, what was it, a professor or teacher?
That was our professor.
Professor asked you at the very end, like, why do you want to become a leader?
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people, there could be great leaders in our community and they just don't even see themselves as a leader.
Right.
But, like, everyone can be a leader, in some fashion. Like, what are you passionate about, and what can you rally the troops to?
Right.
It doesn't have to be at your job. It could be at a food pantry. It could be with kids in some sort of fashion to help them musically or athletically or whatever it may be. It's just anyone can lead. It's what do you find that passion in?
Yep, I think it's passion, and then I think it's seeking out resources as you're going along your journey. And who are your mentors? And, for most of us that are in leadership, we've had many different leaders that we've experienced, bosses that we've experienced over the years. And every one of them has their strengths and their weaknesses. And so as you travel through your journey, to take the strengths from those leaders that you really thought, those strengths were really outstanding strengths, and think about, how do you incorporate those strengths into your own leadership style? And then those things that are weaknesses that you've noticed, how can you how can you learn from that other individual's weaknesses? And clearly, I'm sure people are looking at my, my style and role and thinking about, oh, Barb's strengths were this, this, and this, but clearly I've got opportunities to learn every day too. So, hopefully folks are learning from my missteps or my opportunities, and that they are learning from that as well. And I'm hoping they're sharing those with me as we go through our journey together. But in any case, I think that's important to have a mentor or mentors that you respect and that you're able to dialogue with and learn from.
That's awesome. And so if anyone on Barb's team is listening, she's open to feedback. And so
I think they give it to me.
Good. Well, and I mean, you're open to it. And most people can tell when a leader is open to feedback and not open to feedback.
Yep.
It's one of those things where there are some leaders that aren't.
Yeah.
And that usually comes from a spot of insecurity.
Sure.
And that's one of those things where, as you talk about a weakness, like you can learn from that.
Yep, absolutely.
So I had one thought as you're kind of going along here, and I want to insert it somewhere. Is there a way that you speak to men versus women differently as you lead? Because I'm thinking some men grow up in a environment where, let's say they're an athlete and they're used to a coach just pounding their fists, screaming. That was their enthusiasm, really loud and in your face, and just getting to know you a little bit today, that doesn't seem like you. So if they grew up in that and they're like, oh, well, Barb's not that enthusiastic. But obviously, so I was just thinking, and this may or may not have any merit, but I don't know if you try to motivate or lead men or women any differently, or is it just kind of all the same to you?
I honestly, I don't think I differ in how I'm leading groups of men or women. And I am definitely part of discussions where it's primarily men, because it might be, well, I won't stereotype, but it could be a group of primarily men. And I think the common language we all speak is the goal, and the goal being we want best for us, it's best care for children, and leading with that goal in mind and reminding folks, when I know I'm going into a meeting, whatever it might be, if I know there's going to be a lot of potential tension in the air, I really do lead with, do we have a common goal, and get to a common denominator before we even begin the discussion, so that sort of cuts through a lot of nonsense or posturing and emotion, because we're all in this together. And so it's trying to find where's the common ground that we're all headed towards, and then begin there. And that has been very effective in just not allowing all this chaos around you to kind of, or emotion to kind of get in the way.
Disrupt the goal.
And I stay very focused in those meetings, so that if it starts getting a little unbalanced, a little strange, and I'll continue to keep us then moving forward. And that takes time to develop that skill. It's a little bit of feel and finesse on how you don't disregard individuals' comments, but you weave it back into the goal of the meeting in order to keep things moving and help people feel respected in their decisions. I also don't get worked up when there is some emotion. I practice mindfulness at those points in time and really think about, are my arms relaxed, and is my jaw relaxed, and am I maintaining eye contact with you and just breathing? And are my feet on the ground? To just keep myself settled so that I don't allow all of the emotion to just infiltrate, because I do not want to lose focus as we're trying to get where we need to.
That's a really key point that you touched there at the very end there, is the emotional. As a leader, like staying grounded. One of the greatest books I've read is Emotional Intelligence 2.0. I think getting to know your own emotions, getting to have a larger vocabulary of emotions, and on that EQ versus IQ scale has been such a asset for me as a leader. understanding that there's more than just a few basic emotions, that you can be frustrated, not angry.
Yep.
You can be elated and
Yep.
not just joyful. I mean,
Yep.
there's certain emotions that you, in identifying those, and if you can remain in control, you can help others better control.
Yeah, you can
can't
bring it
affect
back,
them, but you can
right.
kind of bring it back and center
Yep.
it. And
You can help it balance.
or if you sense that they need the space for a moment or
Mhm.
just time, that
Yep.
you just let it go.
Yep.
Right. Just being mindful of where they're at.
Yep, and being able to put the words to it and to be able to say, let's take a break, or would you like to take a break right now, and we
Yeah.
can meet again tomorrow,
No.
know, whatever it might be, but put words to it if you can't get it back.
No, that's really good. So kind of wrapping up here, I want to be mindful of your time. What is a good book you're either reading now, or any book that and I would say any book that doesn't have to be to today's
Yep.
topic, but what do you got for the audience?
So I have 2 books that I'm reading. One is for work, and it's the author is Cy Wakeman, and it's a book called No Ego, and it is to decrease the drama that goes on in the workplace. And that's interesting. She's got YouTube videos also.
Cy is a female.
Cy, C-Y Wakeman,
C-Y,
female.
okay.
Mm-hmm. C.Y. Wakeman, No Ego. And I think it just came out in 2017, maybe even 2018. But she, and she's got the YouTube videos that she also does talks on. But her approach, some things in her approach are a little bit harsh, but basically it's really how do you cut the drama in the workplace? And it's that storytelling, that just has a life of its own. And so how do individual members of the team work to cut their drama? And how do you as a leader recognize that you have your own little drama going on from time to time? And I'm just starting to read that book, and I identify like, ooh, I'm making a little drama right now. So that's interesting. And so there'll be more to come on that as we work through that book. And when I say we, there's several leaders at the organization reading that book right now.
But before you move to the next one, I want to ask you how you guys go about that, since it's a workplace thing. How do you guys do a book club? Do you give each other a certain amount of time and then reconvene and talk about it?
So this book was given to us at one of our workday sessions. So periodically the leadership gets together to review the strategic plan and where are we going as a group, and so we work together that way. But this book was given there. And then every week, one of our quality leaders who is leading this book sends out to us a YouTube video to watch for the week with some reflective questions based on the chapters. So I think I'm up to chapter 5 now. I'm a little behind, but so that's how they're managing that right now in the workplace. And then I know a couple of our managers did book club together on the book. So they met at work over lunch to talk about the chapters. So that's how they're handling that.
That's good. I like to hear other people's processes with how they share that, and I'm sure others might as well.
Yep.
All right, what's second book?
Okay, so my goal this year, as the new year approaches, I start thinking about what is it that I want to do this year for myself. And last year's goals were to read more for fun, because I don't necessarily enjoy reading for fun, but I wanted to do that this year. And a second one was for me to learn to knit.
Okay.
So I learned to knit. I knit an Afghan, and now I'm on my second Afghan, so I met that goal, and I do enjoy it. And I joined a book club, a social book club with some work colleagues. We were out one night, and it was right after I made that goal. And we were out after work, and somebody said, hey, let's have a book club, like the 7 of us. And I'm like, no, don't want to do it. And they're like, come on, let's do it. So I joined the book club.
Reluctantly, it sounds like.
But it's actually been a really good experience. We, whatever book is selected by the person who we rotate, whoever selects the book, does the book club, and we all have to read that book regardless of whether we want to or not. So it's been an eclectic group of books that we have read so far, and right now I'm reading Dinah's story. And I'm only in chapter 3. My book club is due in 3 weeks from now, so I have a lot of reading to do. But that was one of our colleagues that is part of the book club she's Norwegian, and this is a story about a young Norwegian woman way back in the old age, and how strong of a warrior type woman she was. So I was like, oh, okay. So it's kind of a thicker book, so it's going to take me a longer time to get through.
So you got some work ahead of you
I've
this
got
weekend.
some work ahead of me, exactly.
That's fun.
Yep.
That's fun. So any parting words on being enthusiastic for our audience?
No, not really parting words. I think, when you think about your enthusiasm, and I've said it repeatedly through this discussion, it really is just keeping grounded and staying pure to why you're doing what you're doing and what impact you want to have, and helping your team achieve that. And that, if you have a passion for what you're doing and can touch on that passion when things are really rough, which they always, they are for us all that are in leadership. It's not all, enthusiastic worthy. It's like you've got to generate it yourself. And I think just getting back to the passion of what you're doing and why you're doing it is really important.
That's great. And Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People says begin with the end in mind.
Yep, absolutely.
So that's great advice.
Absolutely.
So how can our audience get a hold of you if need be?
At the uwhealth.org site, you can put my name in, Barb Byrne, and you can locate me through that.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. Really enjoyed the conversation today.
Yeah, it was a pleasure meeting you and being part of this. Thank you.
Well, thank you.